Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next level tactics. From offsite and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition. Now, here's your host, Timothy Carter.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. We're going to talk about website bounce rates and what do they mean. You know, bounce rates are like online marketing killers. You may be radically successful in your inbound marketing strategy, funneling thousands of visitors to your site through search engines, social, and referral traffic. But if your bounce rates are too high, that traffic won't mean anything. If you want your users to stick around long enough to convert or at least learn a thing or two about your company, you'll have to get those bounce rates down and keep your users engaged. If you have a high bounce rate, then, something's wrong. Visitors either, one, weren't looking for what you have to offer, so you need to work more on targeted traffic. Two, they aren't finding what they're looking for easily enough. Or three, they were basically turned off by something before they even took the time to investigate. Ultimately, this means two things. One, you're missing out on potential customers and your business is losing money. Two, you're probably not ranking as high as possible in Google search results, and we'll talk about more of this in a minute. You can find out what your bounce rate is by using Google Analytics or any number of other analytical services out there like Piwik. But if you use Google Analytics, then your bounce rate turns up right in the middle of the dashboard the minute you log in. If your site has a simple, thoughtful design that's, easy on the eyes and simple to navigate, the next thing to consider is the quality of your content. Is it interesting? Does it solve people's problems or give them what they're looking for? Don't write technical jargon unless you're a B2B company with customers that live and breathe that kind of stuff. To stand out from the crowd, give your customers' content some personality. You only have a few seconds really to get the visitor's attention because, if you don't, obviously, they'll hit that back button or X on out and move on to the next site, maybe one that belongs to a competitor. Guide your readers through your other content on site, in every piece of content you publish on your site, you really should include links to pages or posts elsewhere on your site. Obviously, don't put in dozens of links, but include a few at the very least, depending on the length of the content you're publishing. If people are taking the time to read, then they'll likely be interested in following those links to other relevant content on your site, which keeps them on your site longer, obviously, and reduces your bounce rate. And at the end of each page, include a few links to related posts or a call to action or a video, a few links to related posts. That's easy to do with WordPress. I'm really not familiar with other platforms, but I'm sure they have something to accomplish this too. You can use plugins that will automatically link to other posts based on tags or other criteria you choose. Some of them will also include, thumbnail images, which is great if you have a lot of images as well. For example, a photography site or lots of products to showcase. So here are a few you can consider using, like WP Thumbie, WordPress Thumbie. It displays related posts with thumbnails, and you can choose to exclude certain pages or categories. And Relate, this one's pretty easy to set up as well. You can activate it and run it as it is, or if you prefer, you can use different options to display posts exactly how you need them. And there are several other different looks to this one, too. A few links on each page, will give it a different look and give your readers, the opportunity to dig a little deeper and dive further into your site. Talking bounce rate and rankings, I mentioned earlier that, your bounce rate can affect your page rankings. Notice I said can and not definitely will. While SEO professionals have suspected for some time that Google does use bounce rate as a factor in how high your site ranks, more recently it's become open to debate whether, that's an accepted fact. So, here's a couple of good questions to ask around, bounce rate. Is it good to have a low bounce rate? Having a low bounce rate is generally considered good because it means your visitors spend more time on your site and potentially consume more content, which usually means your content is interesting or compelling and often leads to a higher conversion rate. Yeah, another question, is it bad to have a high bounce rate? Well, having a high bounce rate is really neither good nor bad. In some cases, it could mean that a visitor found your site, didn't find what they were looking for, and immediately left. Other times, it could mean that your site provided a clear and concise answer or the information the user was looking for, and there was no longer any need for them to remain on your site. In which case, you did a good job of providing information to the user. And so as a result, your bounce rate, your high bounce rate does not reflect anything negative. And I guess another final question, as we wrap this up, how do I figure out my website's bounce rate? Well, if you have Google Analytics installed on your site, you can easily determine your website's bounce rate. It shows you that metric from a daily, an hourly, weekly, or whatever time frame you want to set. There are other tools, out there for determining on-site analytics as well, but really, Google Analytics is a free solution, which is, a good starting point if you aren't currently tracking any analytic data. And I think that'll about wrap it up for today. If you want to improve your site's organic visibility and improve your site's bounce rate with some quality content, or you need an SEO audit of your site, come on over to SEO.co and schedule a time for a free consultation. You will learn how we can help you scale your ability to outwrite and outrank your competition.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.